y'all? Donnie Keith here, aka Auntie Peaches from the Aunties Radio Show, also on The Voice of Reason. I'm here to say that ever since my man started taking A game, he's been on top of his A game. When I say A game, I mean his A game. He's more focused. He's definitely working out more. His attitude is better. And he's not complaining of all over body aches due to poor blood circulation, because A-Game provides great blood circulation, if you know what I mean, ladies. That blood circulation. Sometimes I have to hide the A-Game in the bushes when I'm out walking the dog just because I want some sleep, if you know what I mean, ladies. Stay on top of your A-Game, fellas. Get your A-Game.
Hey all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly value, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. Hello. How is everybody? TGIF, I guess. Hopefully everyone is doing well, headed into the weekend. So we got a lot to talk about. Please share the stream because we actually got a lot to cover. Kind of wanted to wait to see how many more people was going to come in, because I know I have people who listen that are listening out of the UK. Do we have anyone here in the chat that's listening out of the UK right now, or from there, or grew up there? Or even anyone who grew up in maybe one of the Commonwealths, one of the British Commonwealth states. And the reason I'm sort of asking, Wayne is from Jamaica, okay. The reason I'm sort of talking about it in this way or anything like that is, Bureau, you're right. Yeah, Bureau. Bureau, you're from London, okay. Because I was born and raised in America, we don't have any sort of tie necessarily to the British monarchy. Like I said, from Undani, you're from Zambia, okay. For us here in America, the monarchy is literally kind of worlds away. And we only get news like when something big happens, like a death or a wedding or something like that. And if it's a wedding, we see all of the pageantry and, it's like real life Disney or something for us. Because we don't have anything in our culture that ties us, or we don't have any like feelings towards it one way or the other. And the reason I'm bringing this up like this is because I would imagine, and I'm going to ask, I'm not going to speak for you. I'm going to ask for those of you who grew up, born, raised in either the UK or in its Commonwealth, is it a complicated thing for you guys from the standpoint of there's a sort of, especially I guess if you're from the UK, there's sort of a national pride that you have. Like, yeah, I was born and raised here. You know, that's your culture. That's your place where you lived, you know, and things of that nature. Thank you. I can't say your name. I'm sorry. Said I'm from South Africa. Okay. And thank you so much. I'm wondering if for you all who live in the UK, is that almost like a complicated or maybe a conflict of interest that you have, knowing the history of the monarchy, but also being a part of the nation? That's the nation where you grew up. I was just wondering. I don't know. But anyways, it creates a conflict. Okay. Okay. I can imagine that. I can imagine that. I really can. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into it. I got a clip that I want to share. And the clip is about 5 minutes in. I'm going to try to let it play out. But today, I really want to touch on and talk about the way in which colonization actually works. And this is sort of a perfect way to kind of illustrate it or talk about it. Okay? So I'm going to show this clip. I believe that the clip is from a documentary called The Ring of Power, or at least that's what was being said in the comments. So it's a real interesting sort of 5-minute condensation that talks about the colonization of talks about how Britain colonized these different places and how they went about that. Okay? I'm going to try to let it go all the way through without stopping it. I can't make any promises, but I think we can stick by with the 5 minutes because it's actually really interesting. So, you know, it's got the documentary music and everything. So, let me go ahead.
The Queen, her gold carriage alone is made of 4 tons of solid gold, worth over $370 billion at today's gold prices. The Bank of England Nominees Limited was established to hide the Queen's investments. Secrecy about her wealth protects her. Government and banking officials inform the Queen about where to invest her wealth. That's called insider trading, and it's illegal. But the Queen gets away with it scot-free. Why? Because she's the Queen, and she's immune to prosecution. The Queen owns more than 300 residences, including castles and palaces, crown jewels, over 27,000 masterpieces, prize racehorses, and a fleet of Bentleys and Rolls-Royces. Her colossal wealth also includes crown land and investments that she inherited from her black nobility ancestors. The Queen's Crown estate includes over 50% of the UK's coastline, as well as Regent Street and Windsor Great Park. Her trillions in wealth are passed down to her descendants, untaxed. Would British tourism collapse if the monarchy was abolished? No, statistically, Buckingham Palace doesn't even make the top 20 list of tourist attractions.
Do you know how much the Queen is worth? 17 trillion pounds. That's $30 trillion. She could end world hunger and poverty tomorrow.
Besides insider trading and tax-free income, the slave trade and drug trade. Queen Elizabeth I started the British slave trade in 1564. As head of the Church of England, her slave trading of African blacks upset the moral foundations of the Church. Queen Elizabeth II is now head of the Church of England. 200 years after the slave trade was abolished, the Church was pressured into confessing its horrific crimes and apologizing for profiting from the African slave trade.
Okay, I gotta stop it. I'm sorry. I told you I couldn't make no promises. I couldn't make no promises. I couldn't promise. I'm sorry. It's interesting that her funeral is gonna cost taxpayers. With all of the wealth that the monarchy has in its possession, regardless of how they came about that wealth, it's so interesting to me that people who live in the UK are saying that they're gonna be basically charged for her funeral in this economic worldwide climate. Not surprised, it's just interesting. Before we continue, the reason why I paused it is because the beginning of that clip starts talking about how she's immune to, she was immune to basically the law. She's above the law. The monarchy is above the law. King Charles now is above the law because they are considered sovereigns, okay? They are considered sovereign entities that can create their own law, and they don't have to see to any governing body to give them rights or privileges, okay? But then it talked about, how there were others that she was told how to invest her wealth and things of that nature. So let's talk about lack of leadership. The lack of leadership that she really had. Because it actually went beyond just being a figurehead. Being the figurehead of a monarchy that didn't rule the way that it used to in the 1500s, 1600s, and all of that type of stuff. But as a female, she would have had more working knowledge than your average woman about mobility just because her position would have demanded it. Thank you, Mr. Donnie Max. How do you think your ancestors got these? Do you think they paid a fair price, or did they take it like they took everything else? Killmonger from... Exactly. Precisely. Which is actually what made Black Panther, the first Black Panther, such a good movie, because it actually told the story of colonizing. But getting back to her, she didn't have no foresight or no vision. It's not like she was gonna really come into power and really reshape anything according to any type of foresight or vision or, anything like that. No world building. Everything that she did, those decisions were made by other people for her. Where to visit, what to say, what to do, when to visit the Commonwealth states, when to stay away from them, and all of this sort of thing. Where to invest your wealth. What do we do next? These are not decisions that she was making in a unilateral way. You know what I mean? So there are those behind her that are like, okay, these are the decisions that you're going to make. And you're going to be the face of the decisions that we actually are making for you. You're going to be the face of that. So there was no real actual leadership going on for the past 70 years that she held that throne. So let's start there. Nobody was really following no type of leadership. Although according to the letter that I read earlier today by the EFF, that statement, she did go ahead and put down a few rebellions brutally. That was a decision. It's interesting, right? However, figurehead or not, she could have redressed a lot of wrongs that was done prior to her getting on that throne. She could have redressed some of this stuff. She really could have. She had enough sway, though, in order to do that. And I think, and I can be corrected by those who live there, but it would occur to me that this is why there's a conflict. Thank you, Relis, a new sub from Oakland, California. Peace and blessings. Thank you so much. I can imagine that, because she didn't redress anything, because there was little to no acknowledgement of the primary role that the British monarchy played in the subjugation of pretty much more than half the countries in the world, and the pain and suffering that went behind that, the looting, the plundering, the murdering, the blood-soaked monarchy, and she never said anything about that. Knowing that there are people who born and raised in the UK that have Nigerian descent or other African descent or descent from other parts of the diaspora. So I just kind of wanted to point that out, because we can't say that all of this stuff is old news, because the places that gained their independence away from the rulership of Britain all did so really in the 20th century. And later we're kind of gonna go over a few of those places. But the point that I'm getting at today, is I really need us to understand the different layers of the colonized mind. But I'm gonna go back to this clip because they said some other really important things. Right now, I'm gonna pick it up where we left off, where they were talking about how basically Africans didn't have any soul. That's a biological attack. It always begins with the biological attack, right? When we talk about biology, culture, and environment, they gotta attack you biologically. They got to. But we're gonna get into it.
At first, the Queen and the Church only admitted to owning slaves and plantations, but the public soon discovered that the Church had given their blessing to something far worse. The Church had approved the beating, mutilation, rape, kidnapping, and murder of tens of millions of Africans by declaring that Africans had no soul. This gave the Church a divine license to profit from their diabolical crimes. Even more lucrative than Queen Elizabeth's slave trade was Queen Victoria's drug trade. Opium was grown and manufactured in the British-owned opium factories of British India. China banned the importation of opium, but once the British monarch secured a drug trade monopoly, over 17,000 illegal chests of opium worth millions were forced onto the Chinese population. The British waged 3 drug wars on China to force them to pay for the illegally imported opium. China's emperor didn't stand a chance against the British East India Company gunboats and Royal Navy. The British destroyed, plundered, looted, and raped their way along the coast of China until there was nothing left to loot or plunder. On August 29, 1842, the Treaty of Nanking forced the Chinese government to pay £15 million to the British merchants to open up its ports to opium trade and to cede Hong Kong to the British. This was the ugly origin of Hong Kong's 155 years as a stolen British Crown colony.
Now, I'm going to have to pause that. I'm going to have to pause it, and I got to come back, because we got to talk about that one. We got to actually talk about that one. And thank you so much, Shocks. So my grandfather used to say that the UK and US flag stood for blood, cotton, sugar, and indigo, red, white, and blue. The British textile industry demanded all. We got to actually talk about that part of it, okay? Because through the East Indian Company, trading company, they actually forced China into a drug trade with them. China was like, no, we don't want to do that. Why was China saying no to that? Because of its value system. The Chinese had their own value system, and it didn't include opium. It didn't include bringing such a horrible plague down on its own people. If we do a drug trade with you, the drugs gotta go somewhere. They gotta go somewhere. We ain't just gonna buy them and what? Somebody gonna utilize these drugs. China had a severe opium issue. A severe one. They closed their ports to the British, like, no, we don't want to do a drug trade because we have a value system that says we can't do that. But when you put values up against gunboats, who's gonna win? Who gonna win that fight? The Chinese said no, we don't want to do that. And Britain said, you're gonna do it. We gonna make you do it. We're gonna force you to do it. How? How we gonna do that? They're not gonna just take no for an answer. Oh, you don't want to do a drug trade? Oh, okay. Well, we'll just take our business elsewhere. No. We're gonna cause all kind of trouble up and down the coast. We know you don't have the manpower or the gun power to deal with what we got. We know you don't have that. Right? So we just gonna cause this trouble. We just gonna grape. We just gonna, plunder. We just gonna steal. We just gonna kill. We just gonna decimate your country. All up and down the coast. Anything our gunboats can reach. We just gonna sick the dogs on you until you say uncle. That's all we gonna do. And when China couldn't do anything because they were outmanned, because they were outgunned, it was a losing battle from the start. So in order to stop the devastation that's going on with they people, I know they people was looking at to the emperor like, you gonna stop them from doing that? Now you're in a position to choose lesser of two evils. Because do I let them continue to come in and slaughter us? Or do I accept this slow death that they want us to take, which is in the form of these drugs? Funny how they always try to make out like other people drug dealing is so bad. Who's the better drug dealer? The worst drug dealers in the world is the colonizers. Whole monarchies, as we can see. Whole governmental systems supported by what? Drug money. Stolen goods, stolen resources. That's all it's ever been. I just want to read y'all a little bit about the East India Company, just in case we don't know what the East India Company actually is. Just want to say, it's going to be a quick read, I promise you. We're going to go back to that video. I promise you it's a quick read. The East India Company. I know y'all can't really see this script, but that's okay. The East India Company, also called English East India Company, formally from 1600 to 1708, so basically a century. Governor and Company of Merchants of London trading into the East Indies, or United Company of Merchants of England trading to the East Indies. English company formed for the exploitation of trade with East and Southeast Asia and India. I'm sorry, y'all. With East and Southeast Asia and India, incorporated by royal charter on December the 31st, 1600. Starting as a monopolistic trading body, the company became involved in politics and acted as an agent of British imperialism in India from the early 18th century to the mid-19th century. In addition, the activities of the company in China in the 19th century served as a catalyst for the expansion of British influence there. The company was formed to share in the East Indian spice trade. That trade had been a monopoly of Spain and Portugal until the defeat of the Spanish Armada by England gave the English the chance to break the monopoly. Until 1612, the company conducted separate voyages, separately subscribed. There were temporary joint stocks until 1657, when a permanent joint stock was raised. The company met with opposition from the Dutch in the Dutch East Indies, now Indonesia, and the Portuguese. The Dutch virtually excluded company members from the East Indies after the Amboina Massacre, an incident in which English, Japanese, and Portuguese traders were executed by Dutch authorities. But the company's defeat of the Portuguese in India won them trading concession from the Mughal Empire. The company settled down to a trade in cotton and silk piece goods, indigo, and saltpeter with spices from South India. It extended its activities to the Persian Gulf, Southeast Asia, and East Asia. Beginning in the early 1620s, the East Indian Company began to use slave labor and transporting enslaved people to its facilities in Southeast Asia and India, as well as to the island of St. Helena in the Atlantic Ocean west of Angola. I'm gonna stop reading this. I just wanted to give you a little bit of what the East India Company was about. So basically, they bullied China into a drug trade using that company. This is where China got this. I'm sorry, y'all. Give me a moment. My apologies. Let me try to finish the video. There's just a couple minutes left.
There are people who believe that they have a God-given right to rule over others. They believe that their outward appearance is superior to all others. they harbor selfish ambitions to be rich and to have power over what they describe as common people. They lie, cheat, steal, strangle, stab and slash their way to power. They believe that their actual willpower, what the British occultist Aleister Crowley described as the will of Thelema, the royal will, must be obeyed. Literally millions of people have been slaughtered at the behest of the royal lust for war, and thousands of people have been assassinated so that demonic dukes and killer queens can reign supreme.
Okay, that's the end of that one. And I wanted to show it because I thought it was important to see. I thought it was important to see that part because China is now doing the same thing that was done to them, and they're going back over into the continent again to do the same thing that they learned. They learned colonizing from their colonizers. I'm going to show you another video. It's actually a really quick clip, and it's something else I think we need to see. Thank you, Black Matrix. I always tell certain people to watch Rome, HBO series, to get a clearer picture of the blueprint. Power is taken, not given. Exactly. Let me show you this too.
Meanwhile, while TikTok suppresses black creators on the US version of their app, this is how they exploit young black African kids for profit on the Chinese version of TikTok. Y'all gonna learn today.
In this one, for example, the producer gets the kids to promise they'll always stay in Africa. In this one, a patriotic song about the glory of China, they're made to sing yellow skin and dark eyes are the most beautiful. In quite a few of them, we see girls dancing in obviously sexualized ways. Teenagers, and sometimes even younger kids. It's important to say not everyone in China thinks this is okay.
Not to mention that how in China they remove black people from like blockbuster movie posters because they do not want to see black people at all. But this the app in America that black people begging to be on. Y'all gonna learn today.
This one was kind of interesting because everywhere else the Black Panther poster shows Chadwick Boseman's face, and there they have it covered up like with the Black Panther mask. And here in the Star Wars Force Awakens, John Boyega co-stars, and in this other poster he's not even there. Everybody else is there, he's not there. Thank you, dear Philip J. Said, can't stay, but I'll sponsor today's class. Good stuff. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and go to a commercial break. So after these messages, we'll be right back.
Thank you for joining the A-Game Zoom meeting. Juan, start us off with your financial projections.
Oh, Charlie, what is that?
Wait, does he even know he's live?
Why are his pants so tight? Oh, you just got the... Is he pop locking?
He does have moves. Go on.
Or the breakdance?
Ooh, I hope he doesn't split his tight pants.
Oh, go one. Go, it's your birthday. Go one, it's your birthday.
You better clap yourself back to work. In there dancing around like you crazy.
Okay, that was pretty good. Now that Juan has given us his unauthorized dance routine, does anyone else have a dance routine they want to do? Okay, well, let's get back to showing the world why A-Game is the #1 herbal solution in the world. However, I kind of want to know why his pants were so tight too. But let's get back to being on our A-Game.
I always like that commercial. Welcome back, everybody. As usual, today's show was sponsored by A-Game, 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 right? We got to be on our A-Game. That's what I'm really trying to get us to be today. But A-Game is the #1 herbal solution for men's health, which addresses his vitality, his energy, his strength, and his libido. So if you're a guy, whether you need a boost in the boardroom, the bedroom, on the roofing job, on the plumbing job, on the construction job, wherever you are and you need a boost, A-Game is that boost that you need. It's only natural, 21 herbs, no artificial ingredients, nothing to make you crash, nothing to make you have side effects or anything like that. You just take it once every 72 hours with plenty of water, okay? And if you want to become part of the A-Game family, all you got to do is click the link at the top of the chat, agameherbal.com, and don't forget your 10% discount using the code Kendra10, and you can have this box of awesomeness delivered to you ASAP. Thank you, Only Thing Constant is Change. Thanks for candid responses to WS and interrelations we have adapted in our culture, unfortunately. And thank you, Vietnamese. The Royals are just messy, especially BTS. Thank you all for your contributions. I really appreciate that. I'm going to talk a little bit about China and Africa. And it's really kind of short. I'm going to share my screen one more time. Please forgive me. Here we go. America cannot ignore Africa. Africa's challenges, opportunities, and security interests are inseparable from our own. Our competitors clearly see Africa's rich potential. Russia and China both seek to convert soft and hard power investments into political influence, strategic access, and military advantage. China's economic and diplomatic engagement allow it to buttress autocracies and change international norms in a patient effort to claim their second continent. About 40 out of Africa's 54 countries participate in China's Belt and Road Initiative, the global infrastructure and economic development project that the Chinese Communist Party launched in 2013. BRI aims to build an economic and infrastructure network connecting China with Europe, Africa, and beyond, and has already strengthened China's global influence from East Asia to Europe by making countries worldwide increasingly dependent on China. China is dependent on Africa for imports of fossil fuels and commodities. Beijing has increased its control of African commodities through strategic direct investment in oil fields, mines, and production facilities, as well as through resource-backed loans that call for in-kind payments of commodities. This control threatens the ability of U.S. companies to access key supplies. Now, why did I read that? I read that to you because even though that's a real short snippet for what China's doing on the continent of Africa, thank you, JJOH. So when FBA talk about tethers, we're talking about the ones who cried for Lizzie, not all immigrants. Look up Operation Legacy Liz is Evil. The tether class is why Marcus Garvey couldn't help. And thank you for that. This is really emotional for me. Because when I see clips of them sort of brainwashing little African kids and making them sing little songs, and those children don't really know what they're singing. They don't know what's being taught to them. They don't understand a couple of generations down the line that's going to be detrimental. They don't know. And why go back to the continent? It's really simple. Once a people have already been suffering from a colonized mind, it's easy. They're susceptible to it. You just gotta change the master and then reinforce it for your benefit. This is why that colonized mindset, it's gotta be changed. Because it doesn't matter who's perpetrating it. It doesn't matter who's perpetrating it. We're still living under this stuff. So many countries. The list is so long of these countries who had to gain independence from the UK. Afghanistan, year of independence or its first stage, 1919. Antigua and Barbuda, 1981. I'm sorry if I mispronounce. The Bahamas, 1973. Bahrain, 1971. Barbados, 1966. Belize, 1981. Botswana, 1966. Brunei, 1984. The list is so long. I'm sorry. Give me a moment. My apologies. But I gotta go through some more of this list. I want you to see how long this list is. Look at this list. Cyprus, 1960. Dominica, 1978. Egypt, 1922. Eswatini, 1968. Fiji, 1970. Gambia, 1965. Ghana, 1957. Grenada, 1974. Guyana, 1966. India, 1947. Iraq, 1932. Israel, 1948. Jamaica, 1962. Jordan, 1946. Kenya, 1963. Kiribati, 1979. Kuwait, 1961. So many of these places I didn't even know were under British rule at one time. Lesotho, 1966. Libya, 1951. Malawi, 1964. Malaysia, 1957. Maldives, 1965. Malta, 1964. Mauritius, 1968. Myanmar, 1948. Nauru, 1968. Nigeria, 1960. Oman, 1970. Pakistan, 1947. Qatar, 1971. St. Lucia, 1979. St. Kitts and Nevis, 1983. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, 1979. Seychelles, 1976. Sierra Leone, 1961. Solomon Islands, 1978. Somaliland, 1960. South Yemen, 1967. Sri Lanka, 1948. Sudan, 1956. Tanganyika, 1961. Tonga, 1970. Trinidad and Tobago, 1962. Tuvalu, 1978. Uganda, 1962. UAE, 1971. We're going to skip the United States. Vanuatu, 1980. Zambia, 1964. Zanzibar, 1963. Zimbabwe, 1980. We got people this old. All of them, you know what all of them had in common? They only got their independence in the 20th century. Some of these places we think of as second world countries or even third world countries. But these places was rich. Because like the video that I played the other day, you don't colonize poor places. You don't colonize places that don't have resources. For these people to have been sitting on their land with all of their resources, but don't have the legal right to own and be sovereign over the resource in their own land. To be convinced and told that they're poor. To be convinced and told that they're subpar or subhuman or second class. And they gotta make the people believe it. You gotta replace their value system with a lost value system so they can be lost. Because as long as they're lost, you can rob them blind. And make them believe they deserve it. Tell them they savages, that their culture is backwards or barbaric. That the melanin in their skin is something wrong with it. To convince them that they too stupid to build their own infrastructure in their own land. These people, we ain't never been stupid. We've never been stupid. We taught them how to build it. I'm sorry. This one just hit me differently. Thank you, Kendra, for showing some love for your compassion that you have for this topic and situation. We love you. Thank you so much. I love you guys. Hold on. Somebody made a really good point in the chat that I want to bring out. They can't even replicate pyramids. These are the same people. They don't know how the pyramids of Giza were built. How our ancestors were able to build such humongous structures that withstood the test of time as tombs and burial grounds for our leaders, for our pharaohs, for who we had as royalty. They dig them up not to figure out nothing else. They go in there to steal it, to steal the riches that we used to bury our ancestors with. Thank you, Vietnamese. I read in my U.S. history textbook they used Christianity to manipulate slaves. Funny how they never went over it. Shaking my head. Thank you. And thank you, Stephen. They would rather try to say that aliens came down and built the pyramids rather than say that our ancestors were so many thousands and thousands of years ahead of them that we was able to build structures that in 2022, they can't figure out how we did it. Without modern, what we are now to consider modern technology. Never crossed their mind to think that we had modern technology back then. We had modern technology. We was advanced enough to teach the whole world how to live. This is where the 10 life values really come from. Because we were advanced enough to tell the world how you should live, both practically and internally, both externally and internally. We taught the world how to reach spiritual excellence. We taught the world how to reach health excellence. We taught the world how to have family excellence. We taught the world how to have excellence in your appearance. We taught the world how to have excellence in your dwelling. We taught the world what mobility was about and how to have excellence in that. Excellence in education. We educated the world. Excellence in profession, to specialize and become an expert. We taught the world mathematics. We brought art. We even taught the world how to have excellence in leisure, how to have a good time. And we didn't have to hurt nobody. And last but certainly not least, which is the thing that turned they envy to us, was our excellence in wealth. We operated from an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. taught you how to separate the water you clean with from the water you drinking. It's ironic to me that they let places like Flint go as long as it did, and places like Jackson, Mississippi go as long as it's going without clean, potable drinking water. Thank you again, Shocks, at the Mystery System Library of Alexandria. They had to burn that, though, and learning through oral tradition. Yeah, yes. This is why it's so important to keep us lost, to keep us not understanding our identities. Because if we can reclaim the value system also. I'm sorry. Thank you, Raven. So they have literally bled this world dry. They would not exist without us and our ancestors' boundless wealth of knowledge. Our greatness resides even in our very single cells. Thank you. I know I usually do overtime, but I can't do it today. I'm sorry. We just have to, I'm glad that we waking up. Before I go, I want to say this. I'm glad that we waking up because there was a time when her passing, you wouldn't have been able to really mention the history of the monarchy and what the British monarchy in particular was built upon, how they built their wealth, how they got their wealth, who they had to stand on, who they had to brutalize. Because you even got non-blacks. You got non-blacks talking about it too. That's how much we done with it. Because you got some white women that's like, no, I don't know about celebrating and praising. I don't know about all of that. Let's take a look at the monarchy. Let's actually look at that. Let's actually look. And when you take a look, it's ugly. The stuff we done been through is ugly. But we do have the answer. We do have the answer. We do now understand. We just got to get this understanding out. We understand that a value system is the key. It's the tipping point of whether or not a group of people are going to be moved into excellence or are they going to be dehumanized. Because as long as somebody else dictate your value system to you, it's always going to work to their benefit, not to yours. Hundreds of years now, we've experienced this all over the world. It's about time that we now understand that there's a three-pronged way to actually get a value system together. The biological, the cultural, and then the environmental. Thank you, Ruminant said we learned at their feet. When we liberated Iraq, the Iraqis' cultural treasures disappeared. They escaped the UK and the US got them. Thank you for that, Ruminant. We gotta be vigilant. Now that our eyes are open, we cannot close them. Please don't close them. I want to thank everybody for their contributions today. I really appreciate everybody through Super Chat, through Cash App, through PayPal as well. Our eyes are also open to Black Lives Matter. We're trying to get to 7,500 signatures. So the link to the petition is in the chat. Please sign, share, and contribute to it if you can. Like I said, I want to thank everybody. Last but not least, I want to thank my support team, without which we cannot bring you this content. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye, Crimsonites.
Hey guys, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And if you've got more to say on the topic, leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to support our sponsor, who so graciously supports this channel by clicking the description box and the link for A-Game at agameherbal.com. You can go ahead and get a 10% discount off of your next purchase using the code Kendra10. This has been yet another Crimson Cure production, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.